I'm Jamie Galvin. I'm a math teacher. Today we're going to talk about length and specifically how do rulers and tape measures connect to number lines. In just a moment, I want you to pause the video. But first, I want you to take a look at the number line and the ruler, and you may either, on your own or with your team, see if you can list how many similarities and differences you can find between the two images. Now let's talk about the progression of learning. As you can see on the slide, there are 3 benchmarks in the second grade unit on measurement. The first has to do with estimating and measuring the length of an object. Students will also be comparing the lengths of objects and solving word problems related to length. However, for the focus of this video, we're going to be focusing really on that first benchmark, measuring the length of an object, because we're going to talk about how it relates to a number line, and really thinking about why that's even important. Why would we spend the time doing that? So now let's think about what they did in previous grades to get them there, and also what they're going to be doing in future grades to build on that learning. So in kindergarten, the students estimate up to 20 with non-standard units. When they get to first grade, they estimate to the nearest inch and measure to the nearest inch in centimeter, and their instruction does include starting at 0 and talking about how the intervals on their ruler, they're at equal distances. And then of course when they get to second grade, they estimate and measure the length of an object to the nearest inch, foot, yard, centimeter, and meter, and they're selecting the appropriate tool. When they get to third grade, they're going to be building on that by also measuring volume and temperature, but their instruction does also include connecting it to a number line. And in fourth grade, they're measuring length, volume, weight, mass, and temperature. And I'm also going to be talking about in the video, because we're focusing on connecting their measuring tools to a number line, also how it builds understanding for other topics as well. Now thinking back to your task and what students know about a ruler, well, in the beginning, in that concrete stage, we should see students measuring out objects, connecting to where it falls on the number line, and also using centimeter cubes against the ruler to see where that object lands. In the beginning also, they're starting by measuring on the far left, and even if there is no 0 marked on the ruler, they have to have that understanding that they're actually starting at 0. And if they have trouble with that, you can put a big number line on the floor and have them actually jump. I'm going to add my 0 in my number line. Have them actually jump starting at 0 to 1 so they can see that interval in the jumps. And that leads into the next thing. We want to see students counting spaces between the lines, not actually counting the tick marks. And that's another thing too, if the students get stuck on that, seeing that interval can be challenging for some students, but it's so crucial for them to make that connection so they have the foundation of how measurement shows the magnitude of numbers and how far they are traveling along the number line or the ruler, so they can make the connection in the future to addition and subtraction. And then eventually, they no longer have to start at 0 on the number line. They can start somewhere in the middle, or on the ruler, start somewhere in the middle, and they start seeing that the distance traveled gives them the value of the number. To sum it all up, the ruler is a number line that's used as a measurement tool. We want students thinking about the connection from a ruler to a number line and how it might be helpful when thinking about and using numbers. So why do we even want to connect a ruler to a number line? Well, thinking back to the little ones, they may see the number line as just this curved line that doesn't have those evenly spaced intervals and they can just use it to count. But when we connect the ruler to the number line, they start to see that it's a straight line, the intervals are evenly spaced, and they can start to use a number line now to work out simple addition and subtraction problems. And they start by using the number line to just work out the problems, but the point is not just to get the answers, but also to get the students to see that the number line can help them understand the operation. So for example, with addition, and they're adding 2 numbers, they're starting with that first amount, then they're adding the length of the second amount onto it. Or with subtraction, the first more basic understanding is they're starting with a number and they can count back to take away, but they'll start to see that subtraction also can be the distance between the 2 numbers on the number line. And that of course allows them to start connect to that strategy of using compensation. Now I want you to think about moving students to more of an abstract understanding of the relationship between the ruler and the number line. Well, once they've strengthened their understanding of their operations, they can use that understanding to now go back to solve measurement problems, which comes into play more in second grade. So for example, if a student knows that subtraction can be seen as the distance between 2 numbers, they can use compensation to move numbers to an easier place to be able to find that difference in their head. So the example on the slide shows a pencil that starts at 49 and goes to 62. Well, finding the difference between those two numbers to find the length of the pencil, that's hard to do for them to do in their head. They'd have to write that out. But if a student understands the strategy of compensation, they know that the difference is just the distance between those two numbers, they can slide it over one spot and instead solve 63 minus 50, which is much easier for them to do in their head. So again, what's so important about connecting a ruler to a number line? Well, thinking of other ways that they'll connect to it in the future is first with fractions and decimals. So for example, students will have a better understanding of fractions greater than 1 if they use a number line, but they need that basic understanding that number lines have evenly spaced intervals and that how far you travel along the number line shows you how large the number is. They'll also use that understanding for the relationship between a number line and a ruler to help them read a thermometer. And then also in higher grades, how they can use the number line in coordinate grids and even working with integers. And this all starts with that understanding that a number line, like a ruler, has evenly spaced intervals, you're counting in consecutive order, and that a number line is not just used for counting, but it helps students understand the magnitude of numbers. And of course, it lays the foundation for all kinds of other learning. Let's touch back now on how students move through these ways of thinking and how to connect them. So in the beginning, they're connecting a ruler and a number line side by side as much as needed. They're measuring objects, they're using the centimeter cubes if they need, until eventually they can get to the abstract understanding where they've internalized that the number line has those evenly spaced intervals, shows the magnitude of numbers just like a ruler does, and they can start to use the number line as well as a ruler to solve any kind of problem that comes their way. Thanks for joining. See you next time.